You may often feel as if your students have a pea-sized brain like our friend Homer. You give instructions for an assignment and the assignment is incorrect. Students can't grasp a concept, lack focus and organization. However, when it comes to our brains, size does not matter. Think about it, Homer always knows how to get to Moe's. Our brain's pathways are what matter. Our brains have different ways of filing and retrieving information. For example, by looking at this picture of Einstein, some of you would recall the theory of relativity. Others might visualize Einstein's wild hair, and others may become instantly afraid a math problem was fast approaching. Students are no different. They do have a brain, and they do use it. But how they store information and how they retrieve information can be very different from how an instructor delivers information. In extreme circumstances, those differences in pathways can cause a student to have a specific learning difficulty, difference, or disability. These learning differences cause frustration for both student and teacher. More importantly, a learning difference or disability can cause a student to fail in meeting their educational goals. Is there anything we can do to help these students? How do we know if a student has a learning difficulty or difference? How do we help students figure out their unique brain pathways? How do we know if a student has a more serious learning disability? What can we do as teachers? What can students do as learners? Is there help? Yes, there are ways that we can empower students and ourselves to save the day. 4 screenings: vision, hearing, visual stress syndrome, attention difficulties help us see a student's strengths and challenges. The strengths and challenges then allow us to help the student build a path for learning. Imagine, if you will, a PowerPath for the student to follow. PowerPath is a series of screenings and interventions that help a student and teacher determine strengths and challenges. It's a process of engagement, a connection, not so much between the student and the teacher, but between the student and their learning processes. For many students, understanding how they learn is a revelation. Can you see this? Not can you read this, but can you see this? If students have poor vision, they can't see the board, the overhead projector, not even that wonderfully animated PowerPoint presentation you've created. Of the 4,567 students who have been screened by PowerPath, 43% had challenges with visual functions. Did you hear me? Not did you listen to me, but did you hear me? You can't understand concepts, instructions, and ideas if you cannot hear well. It's not always about listening. Of the 4,567 students who have been screened by PowerPath, 39% have hearing challenges. What was first? What was second? Did you say something? What page are we on? Where are my papers? What's today? I'm sorry, can you repeat that? Me? What was the question? There's a test today? Attention difficulties. Of the 4,567 students screened by PowerPath, 40% have moderate to severe attention difficulties. Looking at this for 20 seconds seems like an eternity. Can you imagine if every time you picked up something to read and it looked like this? Visual stress syndrome, a processing issue, not a perception issue. Of the 4,567 students screened with PowerPath, 41% had moderate VSS and 25% had severe VSS. Planning. How can we expect our students to plan when they don't know what a plan is? Teaching them the smarter way to personal learning is essential to their success. For many students, they know that they want to go to school, but they haven't thought about the details. Money, babysitter, time. Students need a map, not a map of the campus, although it couldn't hurt. Students need to map out their questions and goals for the week. Just saying, this week I have a math test is not enough. Students need to be taught how to set the question of the week and ask themselves, what do I need to do to prepare for my math test? What accommodations or strategies need to be made? They need to prepare and pass their math test, great. But have they read the chapters, attended class? Do they have a calculator? Do they have their notes? Quite often, arranging for those accommodations is where students fail. They have good intentions, but they don't realize what is needed to succeed. Students need resources. What if they don't have a calculator? Is there some place on campus where they can check out a calculator? What if they need tutoring? Do they know about the tutoring center? Do they realize instructors have office hours and are available for help? Tasks, the famous to-do list. Students need this. They need to realize that there are items that need to be completed and there is some order to that completion. Step 1, there's a math test. Step 2, I need to study. Step 3, I need help. Step 4, what do I need to bring to the math test? They need a to-do list and it needs to be precise. Evaluation, another key piece of the process. However, it is often the most overlooked piece. Students need to be given the opportunity to evaluate what worked and what didn't. The math test came, the student got a C instead of an A. Allow for evaluation. Change what didn't work and keep what did. Teaching a student how to make sense of everything in their brain is key to their success. Planning and organization does not always come naturally to students, but they can learn how. Skill and map the day's questions. What accommodations, strategies, and resources do they need? Allow time for evaluation and then teach them to remember what worked. The long and the short of it is this. If we were all forced to become rocket scientists, we could figure out how. It might not be fun and we might not get an A, but we know how to access resources, we could strategize, find study partners, and sit at the front of the class. But our students need to be taught to do this, just like they need to be taught composition, math, and science. Remember Homer, the guy with the pea-sized brain? It didn't matter because Homer shaped his question strategically. How do I get to Moe's? He came up with a plan to leave Marge with the kids. He found the resources, and guess what? He's at Moe's, pea-sized brain and all.